G'day there and welcome to Tim's Board Game Review, Episode 2. This time I'm going to review Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror plays for between 1 and 8 players and the game typically goes for about 2 to 4 hours. Arkham Horror is a cooperative game, so each player takes on the role of an investigator and you move around the town of Arkham, helping each other, working as a team to try and prevent this evil ancient one from awakening and destroying the town. So let's see the components that you get inside the box. There's the big board itself, which represents the town of Arkham. There are the investigator sheets, which describe the investigator that each person is going to play. There is the Ancient One sheet, which is the nasty monster that you end up fighting against during the game. There are money pieces, which are used for buying useful items. Sanity and stamina tokens, which you're trying to make sure never drops to 0. There are clue tokens which you move around the board trying to collect. There are doom tokens which go on the Ancient One's doom track. There are gate tokens which burst open randomly around Arkham and which you are trying to close. There are monster markers, the nasty monsters which make moving around Arkham rather dangerous at times. There are some dice which are used regularly, such as for skill checks or for fighting monsters. There are mythos cards which may result in new gates bursting open, show where clue tokens appear, make monsters move around the board, and often have some text which often impacts on the game, like extra monsters appearing. There are other world encounter cards which are taken each time you're in the other world. There are encounter cards which are taken when you are in a location within Arkham. There are decks of cards for unique items, common items, spells and skills. There are character stands and character pieces. There's a full colour 24-page rulebook and a number of miscellaneous cards and tokens. Including all of the cards and markers, there are over 700 pieces in this board game. Arkham Horror does have a lot of rules, but I'm just going to go through some of the basics with gameplay and some other basic rules that will get you started and give you a feel of Arkham Horror. So I suppose, how do you go about winning Arkham Horror? Well, the way most people win Arkham Horror is to try and seal 6 gates. How do you seal a gate? Well, you need to go through a portal, venture through the other worlds, and upon returning back to Arkham, if you spend 5 clue tokens, you get to seal the gate. How do you get clue tokens? Well, generally speaking, you move around the board trying to collect them, and you find them during an encounter. A round of Arkham Horror is essentially comprised of 4 phases. The first phase is upkeep. During this phase you may alter your character's abilities, you may refresh exhausted items, gain retainer money, etc. etc. The second phase is movement. During this phase you move around the Arkham board, possibly collect clue tokens, and if you encounter a monster you can either choose to fight or try and evade it. The third phase is the encounter phase. If you're in a location within Arkham, you take the relevant encounter card. For example, if you're in the Black Cave, you read the text under that heading. This card, for example, says, "Bats, hundreds of them. Pass a speed -1 check to get out of the cave safely. If you fail, lose 1 stamina." A lot of encounters require a skill check. These are based on the current skill level of your investigator. Therefore, the speed check requires you to look at your investigator's current speed. This is modified by the modifier on the card, in this case, -1. Therefore, the amount of dice you get to roll is your investigator's current speed modified by the modifier, -1. So in this case, your character gets to roll 3 dice. How do you make a successful skill check? Well, it's considered a success if in one of those dice there is a 5 or a 6. Normally you only need 1 success to pass a skill test. Therefore, if this was your roll, for example, you will have passed. However, if this was your dice roll, you would have failed and lost 1 stamina. If you're in the other world, you take a relevant encounter card from the other world encounter card deck. The final phase is the mythos phase. During this phase, a mythos card is turned over. These cards have 4 things on them. The bottom left of the card tells you where a gate bursts open, unless that gate is already open or has been sealed. It tells you where to place a clue token. It shows you which monsters move around the board based on the selection of symbols shown. And finally, there is some text that needs to be resolved and usually has some form of impact on the game. If at any time during an encounter or when fighting a monster, for example, when you are reduced to 0 stamina, you are considered to be unconscious. If you are reduced to 0 sanity, you are considered to have gone insane. Either way, if you become insane or unconscious, you are forced to give up half of your hard-earned clue tokens and possessions. So at least you remain in the game, albeit with a bit of a nasty setback. The other slightly trickier way to win Arkham Horror is to kill the Ancient One. A number of things will awaken the Ancient One and cause a final battle. One of these is there being too many gates open. Another one is if the Ancient One's doom track is full. Or if the terror level reaches 10 and Arkham becomes overrun with monsters. The final battle involves a lot of dice rolling as you're attempting to make a whole series of hits on the Ancient One while trying to survive its strengthening attacks. Generally speaking, it is not easy to kill it, unless you are very well prepared for it and have plenty of firepower. So look, overall, I really enjoy Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror really feels as though you're battling against the odds. You know, it is really a tough game to win, but Arkham Horror is, it's cooperative, so it's fun. You're always dealing and planning and working out who should do what to try and help progress your team in achieving its goal. The game has a huge amount of variety because every time you're going to take on the role of a different investigator that might be quite different from the one you played last time. Each game that you play, you have a different, unique, ancient one that you're battling against. And if you ever get bored with the base game, there's numerous expansions that just add extra layers and complexity and variety to the game. As I said, it's not an easy game to win. Sometimes, you might have a lucky game and you do win quite easily. Sometimes it's really on a knife edge and gets very tense right at the end. Are you going to win or not? And sometimes you absolutely get hammered. But hey, it's still fun getting hammered. As I said earlier, the game is for 1 to 8 players. One player, you might question. Well, Arkham Horror actually plays really well solo, just by yourself. It is actually very hard to win with just one character, I must admit. So normally when you play it by yourself, you take on the role of 2 or 3 investigators and play all of them against the board. And it is quite an enjoyable game to play by yourself. A couple of things probably to consider before you buy Arkham Horror. One thing is, as you probably saw, it is a big game, so if you don't have a big playing surface, you may end up having to play this on the floor, which isn't exactly all that good for a 2 to 4 hour game. So it is a big game, so just be aware of that. And the game, it isn't a quick game, so you're not just going to quickly squeeze it in one. It does take up to 3 or 4 hours sometimes to play a complete game, but generally, after you've played it a few times, it does get quicker, and often when you have your encounters, you do them in parallel rather than one person have their encounter, then the next person, then the next person. If you all do that in parallel, you can save a lot of time. These are my ratings for the game. The components of Arkham Horror are very good quality indeed. The luck factor, well, it is medium to high. There is a lot of dice rolling, and the encounters that you have are essentially quite random, so there certainly is a degree of luck in this game. The fun factor, look, it is a fun game to play. It can really get quite tense as you're on a knife edge between trying to win the game and the Ancient One is about to kill you. It really can be quite fun, quite tense, suspenseful game. The complexity and depth, look, the game is very complex. There are a lot of rules to get your head around when you're first playing the game, but once you've learned all the rules, there isn't necessarily a lot of depth to the game. There's not necessarily a whole lot of things you can choose strategy-wise to play the game. It's more the game plays you than you play the game. Look, overall, I give this game an 8 out of 10. It's a really solid, well-produced, well-balanced, cooperative game. Anyway, I hope you liked my second board game review, and I'm happy to receive any feedback, and until next time, see you later.